Welcome people of the internet, it's me KMD, welcome to another Debbie Daylight video! Yoo-hoo! I thought that today we're going to do something a bit more, specific. I felt like I could try getting more into my mains and trying to guide people how to play them, and also just show how I play my killers, and maybe some people like it, so I decided that the best idea would be to start with a Dredge add-on tier list, since I didn't notice that anyone did that for 7.6.0 Dredge besides Odds Darva, and Odds, I love Odds, listen, but he doesn't specialize in any killer, maybe Plague or Trapper, but he's definitely not a Dredge main, so I thought that a take from a Dredge main would be useful to some less experienced players to find the best add-ons to use, what add-ons you should use to learn the killer, and yeah, let's get into it. But before we begin, I would like to share my qualifications for the Dredge. I am in the top 150 Dredges in the world on PC. At the time of recording, I am 148th. Dredge is my most played killer of 2024. I have almost 1.8k hours in DBD, and I am training with Ultrasonic, my team, and I have played Dredge in a comp-like setting in a scrim, and I plan to play Dredge in comp tournaments with my team. With the qualifications out of the way that are probably going to expand as I continue playing Dredge, let's get into it. So at position number 1 is the Ottomarian Writing. The Ottomarian Writing lowers the cooldown of the Gloaming or Reign of Darkness, but I prefer to say the Gloaming because it's cooler, by 2 seconds, making the cooldown from 10 to 8 in daytime. This is, in my opinion, and in opinion of out of Dredge mains, the best add-on for the Dredge, that makes an already solid anti-loop in the Remnant to an even more dangerous tool that will allow you to do more versatile stuff and end chases quicker. You use a teleportation to go across the map, have it again faster. Use your Remnant and the Survivor is moving to the next tile after you hit them. Here's your power again, available to you as soon as you reach the resource the Survivor is making 90% of the time, letting you put the pressure on Survivors before they get to WQ away from the tile. And if you know how to position yourselves, they might not even make it to a better tile. They might just be forced to switch to a worse tile, or even better, that's on themselves. And then using the Remnant is just a means to an end. So yeah, it's really easy to explain and also really hard to explain. You cannot really beat the flow that Ottomarian Writing gives you when you play the Dredge and you know how to use your Remnant correctly. It just feels so good, it plays so good, it's just a really good and simple add-on. And while there's a lot of add-ons for the Dredge that just try to do 50 flips and do everything, you can't really beat this simple little green cooldown decrease with an icon of a fucking notebook. I'm kidding. I know the Dredge is lore, so I'm a big lore nerd. I might do a video on the lore. So, anyways, now exiting S+ tier and going into S tier, we have the Hades calendar. It reduces the exiting time from locked lockers by 0.4 seconds. That makes 2.25 seconds into 1.85 seconds of the animation. You will notice that servers are making way less resources if you instantly start exiting, especially with coup de grace, which I believe is the best part on the Dredge, and it indirectly allows you to get rid of more locks, since it forces servers to lock more lockers in a shorter amount of time. So it directly kinda affects your micro game and game sense for a positive. So yeah, Hades Calendar is just a simple and great add-on that just feels good to use and has synergy with Dredge's best perk that you're going to use most of the time unless you're playing in comp, because everyone bans coup de grace in comp for some reason. Closing off S tier, on position number 3 is the Field Recorder, which gives you instant nightfall at the start and end of the game. It also gives survivors 50 seconds of exhaustion if they walk through a Remnant, destroying it. It is a cool bonus, but isn't really going to come into play. But the main thing you're going for is the instant Remnant at the beginning of the game. The fact that you get your passive ability at the start of the game that just allows you to quickly teleport, get a faster cooldown after using Remnant, and chases even faster than with Ottomarian Writing, but only for the beginning and the end to set up your middle game, is quite fucking good. It's not as bad as the consistent removal of 2 seconds of Ottomarian Writing, but it's still a solid add-on. Though I would say that this add-on is probably for the sweaties of Dredge players, and it's probably going to replace Hades Calendar for you, because, you know, you can run free add-ons. It's great for setting up your early game, it's great for catching up in the late game, but it isn't quite there for consistency's sake. because if you face a good survivor and that just runs out your remnant, then you're gonna get fucked. But yeah, it's still a great add-on that is going to help you a lot, but I would definitely not use it all the time and not get directly used to it, because compared to auto-Marian writing and Heist Calendar, it's way healthier for you, and in consistency's sake, especially in the middle game, they're objectively better, because Field Recorder doesn't really give you anything in the middle game besides the exhaustion bonus, and if you let survivors walk through your remnant, what are you trying to achieve? Going to the A tier, we have the Broken Doll, which adds 20 seconds to Nightfall. If you're running a playstyle focused on Nightfall, you have to run this add-on, but also if you kinda edge I'm sorry, if you leave your charges really close to activation after hooking, and a survivor just comes in, you instantly get Nightfall, you get it for 80 seconds, you can tunnel out the survivor that was unhooked, you can slug. It's just a really aggressive add-on that boosts your special state to the maximum of its possibilities. Next up we have the Malfinger's Skull, and honestly an add-on that I'm not quite of a fan of, but I cannot deny that it's really good. It decreases the charge rate of the Nightfall meter while survivors are injured by plus 25% per second. This add-on doubles Nightfall game when survivors are injured, it combos incredibly well with Broken Doll, and it's a bit less effective after basic changes, but I cannot deny it's really fucking strong. But it's just outclassed by other add-ons that were mentioned earlier in this video. But yeah, if you're on a budget, I wouldn't be surprised if you picked Malfinger's Skull. Next up, we have a little surprise for everyone. Sacrificial Knife. It blocks all vaults within 16 meters when you leave a locker for 5 seconds. It denies life, shock window, helps during chase, can guarantee a hit when exiting a locker. Now, for the main aspect I put it here, it can help with getting rid of god pallets out of the game early. Shock pallet, they either take the hit or get downed, or they take god pallet, or take both. You're getting bothered with the RPD pallets? Take Sacrificial Knife. Pallet on the stairs? Gone. Meme pallet is forced because they cannot vault. The pallet in this weird office thing that I'm showing on the screen right now? Gone. It's probably the Dredge's most underrated add-on, even if sometimes it might be inconsistent, but I find myself always getting some kind of value out of it, whether it's just denying exhaustion perks, or a strong window, or forcing out a god pallet to not bother with it later in the game. So definitely one of my hottest takes on this tier list, but honestly, try it out for yourself. It's not that bad as many people would make you think it is. Next up we have the Boat Key. It adds 3 meters per second when teleporting in daytime, and it breaks all active locks in endgame. The speed bonus is kinda unnoticeable after the base kit changes. Honestly, I wouldn't run it if you just want the speed boost, because the only meaningful effect that it gives you is the break in endgame, because this hits really hard, and essentially the only thing that the survivors have left is just to lock lockers close to the gates, which you can just quickly break. And if you have a Field Recorder for an endgame build, then you can just quickly get your teleport back. Or if you have auto-Marian writing, then you can also get your remnant pretty quickly again. So yeah, Boat Key definitely fell off from the second best add-on slot, but it's not that terrible, it's just really narrowed down for endgame scenarios. Next up we have the Iridescent Wooden Plank, which is going to close off the A tier. Within the last 12 seconds of Nightfall, all survivors get the exposed status effect. While I know this sounds really bad and really inconsistent, if you bring Heist Calendar or Sacrificial Knife, survivors most of the time will not make enough distance to not get the hit, unless they make a pallet that is really not compatible with the remnant, then they're pretty much dead. So it can be made consistent with 2 add-ons, but because its consistency relies on you running a different add-on, I think I put it next to Boat Key even lower, because it's a weaker effect than Boat Key. So it's going to close the A tier. And now we're going to move on to add-ons that are not really useful, and I kinda not recommend running them at all in any scenario. So it's going to start with the B tier. Lavalier Mic gives you auras of all survivors for 3 seconds after using the third teleportation token. It's pretty nice information, but you can't instantly act on it since your power is on cooldown. And also most of the time you will not use more than 2 tokens, so it's only consistent if you're in Nightfall trying to find survivors. The Blocker Slam is a meme just made for jumpscare builds to trigger screams from streamers, so you can make a YouTube compilation of streamers screaming at Dredge. It's good info, but I would only run it if you're really waiting in on Nightfall with like Malfinker and Broken Doll, but still like not consistent as the A, S and S plus tier add-ons. Next up we have an add-on that I'm really fond of. We have the Follower's Cowl, which gives you a killer instinct when you return to the Remnant in daytime. It's the best add-on for learning how to play the Dredge. It will teach you how survivors position yourselves and react to nightfall, unless you get better at positioning yourself and placing down the Remnant in the correct places. In my opinion, it's the best common add-on design in the game. It teaches you how to play the killer, gives you a solid buff for using it, and doesn't let you get reliant on it, because you're just not going to win if you don't use the better add-ons. But in low MMR, when everyone is learning the game, and low MMR people are learning specific killers, this add-on is going to really help you. It's cheap, it's pretty solid for a brown add-on, and it will just teach you the killer before you can move on to actually useful stuff. So yeah, Follower's Cowl is just a great add-on for people that are trying to learn, and if you're beginning your journey with Dredge, take this add-on. But if you're more than mediocre with Dredge, then I would recommend not taking this. It's basically a 1v1 add-on, because in 1v1s you're either going to take Automarian and Hades Calendar, and nobody's going to lock loggers in 1v1s, so I don't know why would you take it, or you're going to take Automarian Writing and Follower's Cowl, because these are like D2 Remnant add-ons that are actually useful. So yeah, Follower's Cowl is going to end the usable add-ons in general. I said that after A tier you shouldn't really use any of these add-ons, but Follower's Cowl is the end of the add-ons I would not be surprised you're using. Next up, the Fallen Shingle. It increases the charge rate of Nightfall while using Reign of Darkness by +15, which means that if you sit in a locker, you get +15% per second charges while you're in the locker. It kinda has a funny combination with Malfeaker's Skull when all survivors are injured, in which you can get Nightfall in 10 seconds when sitting in a locker, but it's just an inconsistent waste of your time that you could be just using better with chasing. And also, how often are you going to have 4 survivors injured unless you're the Plague? And if you're the Plague, you're not going to be using Dredge add-ons or Dredge mechanics. So yeah, Fallen Shingle sounds pretty cool, but it's really underwhelming. Next up we have the Tilling Blade. It inflicts blindness, hemorrhage and mangled for 80 seconds. Now that sounds pretty good, but it's only inflicted on injury while you're in Nightfall. It seems really nice as a passive slowdown, but it's too inconsistent to matter. You want mangled and hemorrhage in daytime, not in Nightfall, because you actually get something from keeping survivors injured with the status effects in daytime compared to Nightfall. So it sounds good, but it is just the objectively the worst purple add-on on the Dredge. Next up we have Burnt Letters. It grants you 25 charges instead of 20 charges for basing attacking a survivor. For the record, Nightfall needs 300 charges to activate. But the issue with this add-on, it sounds cool, but if you run Malfeaker's Skull and leave like 2 survivors injured, it gets outperformed in like 5 seconds. So I used to believe it's better than Malfeaker, but after correcting my math and figuring out how actually this works, yeah. If you're going to get several survivors injured, then you just need to wait 5 seconds using Malfeaker's Skull to get the exact same effect as Burnt Letters, so it's not really worth it. Next up we have the Wooden Plank, which is basically the same as Burnt Letters, but it works on hooking instead of injuring. Why would you use it when Burnt Letters exists? I mean, you can stack these add-ons, but at this point just like take my Malfeaker and get the extra add-on slot for like Broken Doll, for example, for the Nightfall build, quote unquote. It's just a weird add-on. I don't know why would you pick it. And also it's pretty fitting that it's opening the C tier, the add-ons that are basically outperformed by everything else or give you useless stuff that is not going to help you at all. After the Wooden Plank we have the War Helmet, which extends the Nightfall killer instinct by 1.5 seconds. It sounds pretty cool, but then you realize where more than enough information, and it's only good when you're running long loops or you're against overcome users that are going to quickly get away from you, which at this point you can just like figure it out with game sense, I guess, or audio, so I don't see the point of running the War Helmet at all. Next up we have the Caffeine Tablets, which grant lockers that are locked yellow auras when charging the Gloaming. You will either ignore this information or you're going to hurt yourself by playing with this information in mind. Just break the locks and use Hades Calendar instead. And closing off the C tier we have the Destroyed Pillow, which lowers the cooldown of the Gloaming in Nightfall by 2.5 seconds. It sounds really good until you actually play without this add-on and realize it's completely worthless. Most of the time when you're in a cooldown in Nightfall is when you're in a basic attack animation or in the end game trying to find the last survivor through killer instinct with lockers. This add-on is just pretty much a nothing burger, and while it looks good, you just don't need it at all. Opening the D tier, we have an add-on that is so controversial about its placement here that I'm worried about the comments. We have the Worry Stone. It gives you 6 seconds of aura reading on a survivor that locks a locker. Maybe this is just a me problem, but I do not get the hype of this add-on. Survivors will mostly lock lockers in the early game and when they hop on a generator. This add-on will keep you distracted from actually playing the game, and you will just be searching for aura reads when you can just chase survivors, or alternatively run barbecue and chili and lethal pursuer. It will just replace this add-on pretty well, and also barbecue is just a solid perk on the dredge, so why would you can Worry Stone? Closing off the D tier, we have the Air Freshener, which gives the gloaming 4 tokens. What are you going to do with this 4th token exactly? In daytime you're mostly going to use 2 tokens at maximum, and in nightfall you're going to find a person before you use the 4th token. So why would you need 4 when you have 3? Some people say 3 is the perfect number, so why replace it? Are you that big of a fan of the number 4? I'm quite fond of the number 4, but I don't run this add-on because it's useless. Hell, one day it was even bugged and it did nothing. Like, it straight up did not give you the token. So why would you run it? What's the point, bro? There's no point in running this add-on. I'm honest, bro. Just stop. And opening and closing the F tier, ending the whole tier list. The worst add-on for the Dredge, and in my opinion the worst add-on in history of Dead by Daylight. Mortar and Pestle. You emerge from the remnant facing your direction at the moment of teleportation, rather than the one in which you place the remnant. This add-on is by far the worst add-on in Dead by Daylight as a whole. Your muscle memory is going to be either forming incorrectly, or it will fall apart if you already have it. It is made redundant by flicking your mouse when placing down the remnant, and it will only lead you to confusion. This add-on needs a full-on rework, because the concept of adjusting the base mechanic of the killer to the point you can carry over add-onless gameplay to add-on full gameplay is never a good idea. Even discarded milk carton for the unknown makes more sense, because you at least use the power in a similar way and can easily move on to playing only with this add-on. Mortar and Pestle actively works against you and will not give you any better result than any other add-on. It will just confuse you. That's the only point of this add-on, is just to actively harm your gameplay. Never ever equip this add-on, I beg you. And that's going to be a wrap. Here's the full tier list on your screen right now, if you like to screenshot it and post it on the internet and kill me, or kill other people with this tier list. Further, the industry does not encourage murder, please don't kill people. And yeah, this is going to be ending this video. If you'd like to see more Dredge content, let me know in the comments, like this video and subscribe to the channel to see more. I'm trying to get more regular with content, so I think that making content about the killers I enjoy playing is going to help me with that, because I actively have more topics to talk about. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and again, if you liked it, just leave a review in the comment and press the button that is called like. And if you want to see more, subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, internet.